Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to join you this evening to share in your health week. I'd like to extend a special word of thanks to Sister Hermel Clark, who is the health ministries leader, for inviting me to join with you in this week's program. And by extension, I'd like to thank Elder Nicole Cameron and your pastor for allowing me to share with my home congregation, because Oracabessa still is my home on this very important topic. The theme that has been chosen for this week is really very inspired. I will go, embracing a healthy lifestyle. And I think those two things really are perfectly juxtaposed, because without our health, it's difficult to go anywhere at all. And you ask somebody who is up in years, and they tell you that aches and pains will slow you down. And nowadays, people aren't even getting old before they slow down anymore. People in their 40s and 50s are afflicted by so many diseases, especially these non-communicable diseases. And that's really affecting people and affecting our ability to go to spread the gospel, to go to help our neighbors, to go to tell others about this exciting news of the coming of Christ. So embracing a healthy lifestyle is really critical for preparing us to be servants and missionaries for God in this day and age. So I want to look briefly with you on just this idea of embracing a healthy lifestyle. And I want to do it as simply as possible. So I'm going to share with my screen. Right, I think you should be able to see that. Right, I want to look with you on some simple rules for healthier living so that you can go, because that's the whole idea, is that we don't just want to be healthy so that we can pat ourselves on the back to say we're healthy people. We want to be healthy so that we can be fit for service, so that we can go and share the good news of the gospel with others. Now, it's important for us to remember, that God wants us to focus on our health, right? The Word of God in Third John, verse 2 says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." And then Paul in First Corinthians writing tells people that many people run the race, but only one wins the prize. So we ought to run so that we can get the prize. And the important idea is when he says that everyone who competes in games goes into strict training, and they're doing it just so that they can win a race, right? Now, what about our health, right? Are we willing to go into strict training in order to safeguard our health 20, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, depending on how old you are? And I think it is worth it, because you see, the last thing we want to do is to get to whatever age, I don't know, 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. We're sitting in a doctor's office and he tells us, you have XYZ non-communicable disease. And you think back and think, this is a result of lifestyle choices, decades of lifestyle choices, right? And at that point, you're saying, if only you had known, or if only you had decided to do X, Y, or Z, you would be in a better position now. And I'm not advocating for the fact that just eating healthier is going to be a panacea, is going to ward off every single disease. But the science is clear that our habits, or eating habits, or exercise habits, or mental hygiene habits have a significant impact on our health outcomes in the long run. And so it's incumbent on us to take steps to safeguard our health. And I want to show you today that you don't need to do very, very complex things. There are very simple things that we can do that can put us on the right trajectory towards towards better health. Right. So I put these pictures up here deliberately because the idea is that, you have this baby, brand new, young, healthy organs, a whole life ahead of them. And then you have somebody who is older, usually when lots of health issues start showing up. And the question is, what can we do with this child and as they grow to ensure that when we get to an older age, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be 18, as I say, it could be 50, 60, 70, whatever it is. What can we do now to make sure that when this child gets to advanced years, they can enjoy a more or less healthier lifestyle? What are the steps that we can take? Right. And, if you look on the internet, if you listen to the television, there's a lot of things people suggest that are going to give you optimum health. Some people suggest, that you need to be vegan. Some people suggest that juicing, green juicing, and that sort of thing. For others, it's supplements. They have every supplement, fish oil and, ginkgo biloba extract and this extract and that extract. And they figure that that's going to be the secret to good health for them. For some, it's superfoods. You need your kale and your goji berries and your chia seeds, right? And that's going to, help, bulk, get you lots of antioxidants so you don't get cancer or whatnot. For others, it's herbal remedies. You get, this leaf and that leaf and, this concoction or the other is going to make you well. For some, it's elixirs, right? We blend all these things together and we figure the worse it tastes, the better it must be for you. So you take onion and garlic and beetroot and everything and blend it together and you figure, well, that's going to make you healthy. For some, it's fasting, regularly and or special diets. But the point is that there is a plethora of information out there. Everybody's saying this way is going to make you a healthier person. And sometimes information can become, it's so much that it overwhelms you. And usually when you're overwhelmed, your brain tends to simply close off the external stimulus and revert to some well-known pathway. And so you just say, this is all too complicated. I'm just going to eat what I've ate forever. I'm just going to do what I've done forever and hope for the best. I'm not saying that that's not a viable option. What I'm saying is that leading a healthy life does not have to be a complex thing. It doesn't require, special knowledge, special information, special diets. There are very, very simple steps that you can take. And I want to just walk you today through 7 basic rules that I think can improve our health. And, the lovely thing about these rules is that this is not something that, is discovered recently. This is what people have been doing for generations. It's not it wasn't until the last, let's say, 80 to 100 years that our diets shifted dramatically toward what is called the standard American diet. And if you think about, the abbreviation for that standard American diet is SAD. So the SAD diet that we have now is not what obtained for a long time. And if you think about your great-grandparents, how they ate and how they existed, you realize that what I'm going to be showing for the next couple of minutes is not that much different from how our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers would have lived. But now that we are wealthier and we have access to more resources, we find that a lot of us are sicker. We might live longer because, there's hospitals and so on and medication to keep us alive. But the quality of life that we're experiencing in a lot of situations is low. So here are my very simple rules, and I'm going to go through each of them real quickly for you. Rule number 1 is that we want to eat a colorful, plant-based, whole food diet, right? Very important, those 3. And I'll look at each in turn, right? Want to drink lots of water. When we're eating, we want to eat with family, eat with friends. Don't just be eating by yourself in front of a television. We want to move as much as you can. And we want to turn off our screens, right? And I know this is kind of ironic because you're watching me on a screen now and I'm talking to a screen as is, but we definitely need to reduce our screen time. And then we need to help others. And finally, we need to pray. We need to build up our spiritual lives. And these are very simple things. And I'm going to show you step by step how these really can influence your overall health. So first is that we want to eat colorful, plant-based whole foods, right? And I put mostly plant-based there because I'm not using this presentation to advocate for veganism or vegetarianism or anything like that. I know sometimes people get a little bit defensive with that. I'm not even asking you to stop eating meat. All I'm saying is that I want you to add to your diet, not necessarily take away too much stuff from it, right? So here's what I want: a colorful diet. The more colors you are eating, the greater the nutrient profile of your diet, right? And essentially, so you don't need to, be counting nutrients. You don't have to worry about nutrients. All you have to worry about is colors. Very simple, right? You go to the grocery store, look at your produce that you're taking up, and ask how many colors are there. If there are more than 4 colors, you're guaranteed that you're getting a good, balanced, nutrient-rich diet, right? So we want to have lots of colors in our diet. The other thing about, plant-based diet is that it tends to be pretty high in fiber, and not just plant-based, but plant-based whole food diet. And when I say whole food, I mean actual food that the plant produced, right? So take, for example, grapes. Plants produce grapes, they do not produce grape juice, right? Plants produce corn, they do not produce corn syrup, right? So the whole food, essentially, we want to take the material that the plant produces and eat that directly. The same way that the cows do, the goats do, the chickens do, they take what the plant produces and they eat it. We want to revert to that diet, and that diet is going to be high in fiber. It's low in sugar. There's absolutely no added sugar. In fact, there's no added anything in that particular diet. So we definitely want to pursue a diet like that. And again, what I'm saying is that you do this, the nutrient profile of the diet is going to improve dramatically. Your gut health is going to improve. Your mental health is going to improve if you're eating mostly plants, whole plant-based foods, right? I'm not saying you can't eat meat. I'm not saying some processed foods are not going to make it in your diet, but the majority of your diet should be whole foods and plant-based, right? It doesn't matter where you are. I think every single locality has its own take on this whole food, colorful, plant-based whole food diet, right? You go right there in Jamaica and you follow all those sprinters. What are they doing? At least this picture is showing they are shopping to get a colorful, plant-based whole food diet. So you want to be healthy, you want to be fast, be like Asafa, go to the market, get your food. When you're shopping, you want to choose food that you find in the market versus the supermarket, right? Because the supermarket, that's where you're going to have more processed foods. Your polished rice and polished flour and pastas and canned foods. And I'm not saying you should stop eating those things, but the real healthy food is you're going to find in the market. And so you want to spend as much of your income, your food budget, you want to spend either in the produce section of the supermarket, or if you want to skip the supermarket at all altogether, you want to spend the majority of your grocery budget in the market. Some people might say, well, things are expensive. I understand that. And I would say, look, if you go to the market, even if you're only buying the cheap things in the market, right, I think you're well on your way to a healthier diet. But if you really do have that concern, consider planting a garden. And the thing about planting a garden is that not only are you getting good source of food, but watching plants grow and that physical activity is also going to be very beneficial for your health. So you want to focus again on colors, plant-based, whole foods. Exactly what the plant produce, eat that. Don't let somebody put it through a machine and then you eat what comes out of a machine. Eat what comes directly from the plant. Proteins, lots of people ask about proteins, when you're on a plant-based diet. And you can get lots of protein from a plant-based diet. Again, I'm not saying give up your meat. All I'm saying is that if you get the majority of your protein from plants as opposed to from animals, you are well on your way to a healthier diet. Again, more nutrient dense, lower fats, just healthier overall. And not only that, but plant proteins are cheaper than animal proteins. So if you have issues with your budget, right, you go to peas and beans and vegetables and that sort of thing. I know this because I grew up poor. I grew up in a family where we had meat 2 times a week. On Sunday we had chicken, and on Saturday there was beef bone soup, and you would be lucky to find a piece of beef in that soup. The rest of the week we had vegetables, peas, beans, grains, right? Because we could not afford it. So don't let anybody tell you that adopting a plant-based diet is expensive. It's healthier in general. It's more accessible, certainly, because you go to the supermarket, you can get chickpeas, lentils, red peas, peanuts, all sorts of things. Vegetables are rich in protein that you probably wouldn't have thought of. And it's versatile. You can turn beans into anything. Peas and beans, you can turn them into anything. Stir fries, stews, you can make lasagna, you can make loaves, you can make burgers, you can make so many things with plant-based protein. So, and if you're in doubt, what I'm saying, just use the computer. We're on our devices so much. Just go on there and look for interesting plant-based protein dishes. Right? I'm not telling you to go buy no soy meat or veggie meat, because those do not qualify as whole foods, right? Remember, we want to see the thing that the plant produced. When we get some veggie meat, we can't see what the plant didn't produce, no veggie meat, right? A machine produced veggie meat, right? So we want to stick, as I said, to the beans, right? So look up recipes. How can you make beans exciting, peas exciting? Make stir fries. As I said, the options are there. You just have to explore it. This brings me to another point, and this is really important. I want to drive home to you, is that food processing companies are not your friends. They are not your friends. Food processing companies are trying to achieve 3 things. They're trying to achieve a very good tasting product, because the better the product tastes, the more likely you are to buy it again. They're trying to achieve maximum profits with the least expensive ingredients, right? Because remember, they want to sell this thing. They want to put too much in it so that they can make much profit, right? So they go for the cheapest ingredients possible to make maximum profit. And the last thing they want to do is that they want to have a long shelf life. They don't want their product spoiling on the shelf before you get to buy it. That's really what drives food processing companies. I'm talking about people like Grace and Lasco and Facey and whoever else you buy your processed foods from. Now, one of the ways that food processing companies can achieve all these outcomes, right? Remember, shelf life, maximum profit, and the good taste that gets you addicted to the food, is by adding sugar. Right? Now look at these ingredients. I put 4 different things here, right? On the left here, we have frosted flakes, some corn flakes. Look at what's on there. Corn, then sugar, some cornmeal, marshmallows. The marshmallows have sugar and corn syrup and cornstarch. Starch turns into sugar. Then it has dextrose. Dextrose is just another name for sugar. Continuing, cornstarch is going to break down right away to sugar. Corn syrup, refiner's syrup, malt syrup. Now, can you imagine going in your kitchen and taking sugar, then corn syrup, then dextrose, which is the sugar, then corn syrup again, malt syrup, refiner's syrup, mixing all these things together to make food. Nobody does that, but we allow food companies to feed us that diet, right? Here's another example. This is for some cookies, right? And look at what's there. Number one ingredient is sugar, right? Not just that, but if you scroll down, this is the blue one I'm looking at. If you scroll down, high fructose corn syrup. So they put sugar and then they put corn syrup on top of the sugar, right? Over here, this is some ingredients for potato chips, right? And you'd wonder, well, potato chips is just fry some potatoes. But no, we have potatoes and then again we're having sugar, right? They put some sugar, they have some cornstarch, again, that's going to break down very quickly into sugar. Some baked beans, I don't know how well you can see this. White beans, yes, water, sugar again. Sugar is the most popular ingredient in processed foods. Why? Because it helps to preserve stuff. It makes the food taste so good, it becomes addictive, right? Who doesn't love the taste of sugar? Very few of us. And finally, it helps to give things shelf life. But the thing is that if you are not going to be spooning so much sugar into your food at home, why are you allowing companies to feed you this steady diet of sugar? And these companies, they want to hide to a large degree how much sugar is in their food, because if this is little infographic, it's in the bottom right hand corner here. I took it from the Jamaican Catalina, and essentially what they're talking about in the story is that they wanted to put on the front of all the foods that this food is high in X, this food is high in Y, this food is high in Z, essentially as a warning to consumers that this food has some stuff in it that may not be good for you. Most of the time is sugar. And would you believe that the Jamaican cabinet voted against these rules, and all over the world, a lot of governments push back, a lot of companies push back against these rules. And essentially it comes down to the fact that if consumers are aware of just how much sugar is in processed foods, their buying habits will change. And it's not just a question of sugar. The problem with processed foods, in addition to the added sugar, is that usually a lot of the nutrients are stripped away. Because you know what? You take a plant, you cut it over time, it spoils very easily. Apples spoil quickly, anything with oils become rancid. And so in processing, what you want to do is remove a lot of the nutrients that will go bad quickly and replace them with, things like sugar and preservatives that, give shelf life. And that's good for the processing companies, but not necessarily good for your health, because you're giving up nutrients, one, and then you're taking all this extra sugar in processed foods. So remember, we want to stick to a whole food diet. Moving forward, so we're finished with food. Now we want to look at what we drink. And essentially, we want to drink colorless, sugar-free liquids. And there's one thing that qualifies in, by that criteria, and it is water. Listen to me. If you spend the rest of your life drinking only water as a beverage, you would have lost nothing at all, and you would have done yourself a great favor in terms of promoting your health, right? Why do I advocate drinking water alone? It saves you a lot of money, right? Because you pay your water bill, the water comes in the tap. So that should be okay. But I think more importantly than that is that usually once you go away from water, if you're taking a beverage, chances are it is loaded with sugar, right? And sometimes we think maybe it's just soda, but I'm telling you, even the juices we make, whether we make it at home or we buy it in the store, is not much better. They are loaded with sugar. And sugar, I'm harping on it so much because it is one of the leading causes of developing these lifestyle diseases, whether it be heart conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure. Sugar is a leading contributor. And what happens usually is that once something like diabetes sets in, then it predisposes you to all of these other health conditions. And I mentioned that juice is not much better than soda. You just look at this infographic here. So this is 100% orange juice, right? They just squeeze the orange and you drink it, as opposed to soda, right? And look, Italian soda is low in sodium. Like, who cares? Here's the trouble, right? The soda has one soda, 39 grams of sugar. That is 13% of the amount of sugar you should take in a whole day. One soda alone has. But then look at the cup of orange juice. Where's the sugar? It's not much better. 23 grams of sugar, so not much better, right? Somebody says, well, how can orange juice be bad for you? Well, here's the trouble, right, with juices, is that usually when you're eating fruit, there's all that fiber coming along with it that you fill up fast. So while in a day, it might be difficult for you to eat, say, 10 oranges in one day. It's very unlikely that you're going to do that. You can drink the juice of 10 oranges in one sitting, right? So essentially, when you remove the plant from the fiber matrix that it comes packaged in, then essentially with juices, mostly you extract out the sugar, and then you get this massive sugar rush at once, where if you're eating the plant or eating the fruit, the fiber essentially fills you up, so that acts as a natural check valve to reduce the amount that you are consuming. So we want to drink. If you need to drink something, try to make water your number one beverage of choice. And more governments are recognizing this and are promoting it to say, make water your beverage of choice. And the big issue is all the sugar that comes with no fiber. So it's essentially empty calories, right? You're just getting a lot of sugar, you're not full, and you can just fill up. You just drink it all day, just bulk up on all the sugar without getting very many nutrients along with it. So we want to try to focus on drinking mostly water. Next thing we want to do is that we want to eat with our families. Now, whether it be big or small, if you don't have family, as much as possible, eat with your friends. Why is this important? Because when we eat together, apart from the fact that we are much happier, we're having conversations, we're sharing with each other, and we feel secure. But in addition to that, usually when we eat together, we make healthier food choices. Now, essentially, you think about it, right? If you're eating by yourself, you live alone, you come in, you're likely to just snack on something, make a sandwich, just eat anything at all. But if you have company coming over, you want to make a presentable meal, you want to have a vegetable section and protein section, etc. So you're more deliberate in your food choices when you're eating in company, as opposed to when you're just eating by yourself, right? So when you eat together, you make healthier food choices. When you eat together, because you're sharing the meal, and you're talking and so forth, so there's so much going on that usually you don't eat as much as when, say, you're eating by yourself and watching TV or something, right? And as I mentioned before, families tend to be happier. Your stress levels are much lower because you're connecting with others. And a surprising side effect of this is that children tend to be much smarter. Families where meals are taken together, the children have much better academic outcomes. It could be because of the conversations that they're having at the table. It could be because their stress levels are lower. It could be because they feel so much more confident in the love of their families. Whatever it is, the point is eat together, right? And again, I like this picture here, because it's a little chicken on the table. So it reinforces that I'm not telling people don't eat meat at all. But what we want to do is to make sure that even if we do consume meat, the majority of our diet is plant-based whole foods as reflected on the picture here. And our beverage of choice is water. And it's funny, when I was young, I used to think if you only had water to drink, it meant that you're poor and disadvantaged, and I couldn't wait for Christmas to come to get a soda, right? But now we're realizing that actually a lot of the things that we're envying, and now that we have more money that we have access to, are the very things that are ruining our health, right? So we want to go back to basics, go back to less expensive, better food choices, right? So eat with your family for better health. Next thing that we want to do is to move, 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 move. This infographic on the right here, right? Very remarkable results saying that just by moving, right? Just walking, brisk walking, on average, and this is, population studies, so not just not individuals, right? But on average, the more you move, the longer you live. And they say just walking 450 minutes of brisk walking per week can give you, and this is not a whole lot of walking, right? That you can, this is about an hour a day, brisk walking, right? You can add up to 4.5 years to your life just by moving. So we want to walk every chance we get. And I want to make it very simple. Think about it. Let's say, for example, you're in Port Maria and you have to do some business. You have to go to NCB and you have to go to Hilo, right? Now, instead of driving to NCB, doing your business, getting in the car, driving back to Hilo, maybe you just drive to Hilo, do your business there, and then just walk down to NCB or walk to Scotiabank. But I'm saying embrace the opportunities that you get to walk, and don't see walking, as this thing to look down as poor man's transportation. Walking is life, right? And you want to walk as fast as you can, not just saunter along. And walk with family and friends. Get out there, connect with each other. There's so much in nature to explore, right? And you get out there, with people you love, and you find that the stress just falls away. So not only are you improving your physical health, but you're improving your mental health as well. And this idea of walking, and we're very fortunate. Certainly, you're fortunate in Jamaica because year round you have the weather to get outside and walk, right? But what they've found is that because people spend so much of their time cooped up in either their apartment, in their cars, in their workplaces, and they're just moving from one to the other, they find that people actually over time, because they are not walking much, not enough physical activity, and because they're not in nature, depression can set in. So now, would you believe it, right? That doctors are actually writing prescriptions for people to go outside and walk in nature for persons who are struggling with their mental health challenges. They can write actual prescriptions, and it means that if you need to take a day off or you need to go to a park that usually you have to pay to get in, they'll give you free admission, but you can get a prescription to go walk in nature because it helps in terms of stress management and certainly in terms of physical well-being. Tax your heart, it improves your lung capacity, right? You get more red blood cells because you're taxing your body, so your body had to produce more red blood cells to keep up with the oxygen demand. But the key is get out there and get moving every opportunity you get. One of the things I do when I go to work now, sometimes I drive, sometimes I take the train. If I take public transportation, instead of coming off at my workplace, I get off at a stop that is maybe 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers from my workplace. I walk the rest of the way. When I'm going back home, I walk the 1 or 2 kilometers back to that place and then catch the bus, or I park my car far distance away and walk the rest of the way. What I'm saying is that you need to look at your life and try to come up with strategies that get you moving more. Something as simply as your yard work. if you have to cut your grass or so on, instead of hiring somebody to cut the grass or to do the yard work, you get out there and do the yard work yourself, right? Because again, it's going to be very good for your body and your mind the more you are moving, right? Next one, and this is as I mentioned before, it's sort of ironic because I'm talking to you, I'm talking to a screen now, you are watching me on a screen, but we need to turn off our screens, right? In general, in America, they find that Americans are spending as much as 11 hours a day connected to some media. And when I say media, I'm talking about television, I'm talking about listening to things, I'm talking about spending time on your smartphone, playing games, watching movie, watching the news, whatever it is, as much as 12 hours a day. And it is hurting people, right? So what we're finding is that things like social media that we're really so engaged in, it leads to stress and misinformation. By the way, I'd like to, if you didn't get a chance to see Sister Eva Coleman present last Wednesday, go back and look at that presentation. Such a powerful presentation, such good information. The idea that social media, not only is it misinforming us, but it is dividing us. It is making us dislike each other, right? Just by what we're looking at and watching all the time. And we get angry, we get jealous, we get all sorts of emotions just by scrolling through social media. We want to reduce that. News, too much bad news actually can raise your stress levels. And if every day somebody is coming and telling you bad news, that, this is wrong with them, that is wrong with them, this is wrong with you, that, after a while, you don't want to hear anything from them anymore because you figure that this person is just a bearer of bad news. But we sign into TVJ every night and let TVJ feed us this bad news. We go to the Gleaner, we go to RFM and RGR, wherever it is. And in some cases, we pay them to feed us bad news. If our neighbor was telling us so much bad news every day, we'd stop talking to our neighbor. Sometimes you want to tune out because all that bad news, what it's going to do is going to raise your cortisol levels, and that's going to raise, your stress. Raises stress levels. Should be there, right? I want to reduce screens in our bedrooms, right? So at nighttime, we want to get rid of the screens. It is going to affect our sleep. And not only sleep, but it reduces intimacy, right? Because if you have the cell phone you can play on, you can read something, it's interesting. Why do you want to talk to your partner or get into some other intimate activities? Because your mind is engaged and satisfied on the screens. And you want to keep your toddlers away from screens. Nowadays, as soon as they're a few months old, they have a tablet. And parents feel very, very happy that they can give their children a tablet and so on. But listen to me, you're not doing them any favors, right? Give them a book, teach them the ABCs yourself. Don't let Barney or some cartoon character teach them ABC for you. You teach them yourself, because two things: you're connecting, right? You're forming those connections and you're bonding. And second, all that screen time over time, it's essentially training the child's mind to essentially find joy in the screen, right? And over time, their brain is becoming wired to find the screen rewarding, so that by the time they're teenagers, if they feel down, go to the screen. If they feel stressed, go to the screen, because when they were young, this essentially was the thing that made them feel good. As soon as they were crying, they get the screen. So they associate the screen, whether it's a phone or a tablet, with some reward in their mind, and it just carries through life, and it's not good for them. So and it leads to people are addicted to media, and there's lots of dangers with this. There's negative effects generally on our health. Things like decreased concentration, your retinas are overstimulated by watching something all the time. There's decreased intimacy because, of course, now we're all plugged into our devices. There's fatigue. People can't sleep because of the bright screens at night. Headaches, there's loneliness, touch. Because now we're interacting so much with people over screens. What you find over time is that people aren't touching each other as much anymore. I'll tell you, and this is, they say teenage pregnancy in general is on the decline, which is a good thing, right? Because what they find is that young people used to, engage in lots of touching, intimate activities. And I'm not advocating that, but they say that now that there's so many screens, actually all the young people have migrated onto the screen, that even just physical interactions among each other is essentially vanishing because they're just connecting over the screen. More creativity drops because something is always there to entertain you. So there's nothing, there's no boredom in your mind where you have to challenge yourself to come up with something. I mean, how many kids nowadays can make trucks out of box juice boxes and things like that? When we were kids, we were bored, and so you tinkered and you found things to do. But we're actually stripping away a lot of that now with our, constant interaction with screens. And as I say, it's not good for you in general for a number of reasons. Primary being that, physically it can hurt you in terms of headaches and your eye hurts and that sort of things. And mentally, really isolates you from others, increases stress, and you just don't feel very happy. And the funny thing is that you don't feel happy from consuming it, but your mind has been so wired that you feel some reward from looking on the screen, even though it doesn't lead to long-term happiness. And you get into this vicious cycle. The more you watch is the more unhappy you are. The more unhappy you are is the more you feel the urge to watch, which leads to even more unhappiness. And so you need to break that cycle. And sometimes actually, I think it's good practice to, your cell phones, just turn them off physically at night, right? And maybe it means keeping one cell phone on in the whole house in case of emergency. But in general, turn them off, put them aside, turn off the television, sell your television, because sometimes, the screen really has us more captive than we realize. Okay, next thing is that we want to help others every chance we get, right? And why do you want to go out helping others? What does this have to do with your own health? Well, it has a lot, right? As the infographic there is telling us that helping others improves our own mental health, and not just our mental health, but our physical health. And the mental health proportion of it comes from just the fact that you are having more social connections. If you're helping somebody, you're connecting with somebody. You feel good about yourself. So your life satisfaction goes up because now you can actually, help somebody when they're in need. Your happiness is improved. Your cortisol levels, and this is your stress hormones, they go down. And instead, your serotonin levels go up, right? Because serotonin is when you sort of feel good, you feel respected. And when you're helping others, that's the kind of emotion that, you feel thanks. Somebody tells you thank you. And so serotonin levels go up, right? And serotonin is what, leads to more contentment. Cortisol leads to stress, right? So essentially anything that boosts serotonin, lowers cortisol is going to be good, because high cortisol, what cortisol does is that it tamps down your immune system, right? And so if you're more stressed, chances are that you're going to get sick more easily, right? So you want to get out there and help others. And then the other thing about helping others is that in a lot of cases, helping others either requires you to think. Let's say you're helping somebody with their homework. You have to use your brain. That's improving your creativity, right? It's challenging you to go beyond what you usually do. And the second thing is that a lot of time helping others it requires physical tasks. Maybe, you have to help out at the church on work day. You might feel, oh man, you have to go to another work day, it's so dreary. That is actually an opportunity for you to improve your own health. The old lady who lives, in your community, who needs some help with her yard work, right? Oh, that's beneath you. That's an opportunity for you to get out, get active, and boost your own physical health while your mental health is improving. And of course, somebody's life can be bettered because of your action. And I think of that song, if you can help someone as you travel along, then your living will not be in vain. So want to really get out and help others. It's going to be good for your mental health. It's also good for your physical health, right? And the next thing I want you to do in terms of boosting your overall health is to pray. Somebody may say, well, what does prayer have to do with health? And I'm not talking from the standpoint that you're praying for miracles that are going to make all your problems go away. No, actually, they find that even in hospitals, a lot of times the people who are more religious have better health outcomes in terms of recovering from surgeries than people who are not religious. And they're wondering, well, is it that God is just working miracles for the people who are religious and not working any miracles for the others? When they look more closer at it, what they realize is that the people who are more religious, they are more optimistic. They believe in this higher power that is able to look after them. And so they relax, while the other persons tend to be more stressed because they do not have hope of some help. And they worry if they die, they don't know what's beyond it. While the person who is more religious, they have confidence that God can heal them, and even if he doesn't, that there's a reward beyond this life. And what they find is that optimism and level of calmness and peace, it lowers their cortisol level. Remember, I said that cortisol, this is your stress hormone. The higher the cortisol is, the more suppressed your immune system will be. So lowering cortisol increases your immune function, and it accelerates healing, right? So we definitely want to keep a low stress level. And one of the most critical tools that the Christian has for decreasing their stress is to connect with God, is to pray constantly. And that sort of sense of hope and optimism that flows from that is good for your mental health. But also, as we're seeing with cortisol and the relationship with your immune system, it's also going to be good for your physical health. So essentially, the rules are not complex. I did not introduce any fancy diets to you. I didn't tell you have to eat some special time of the day. You don't have to buy some special blender so you can blend green juice. You don't have to go to some fancy health food store to get the latest superfood that is going to cost $1,000 a pound. 7 simple strategies, so simple that 100 years ago, our foreparents were practicing them, not because they thought, I want to be healthy, so I need to go practice these things. They were practicing them because that's all they had. Mostly they had plant-based food. Maybe you could have meat once a week or twice a week, but that's it. There was not much supermarket. A lot of the times they grew the food and ate what they grew, right? Sugar was an expensive commodity. So again, you maybe have drinks once a week. The rest of the time you're drinking water, or if you have any sugar, it's just to sweeten some porridge or some tea. That's it, not for making drinks. They ate together as a family. They might not have had a dinner table, but I remember when we were young, we all got our dishes and we sat around in the yard and we ate together, we joked together, we had a good time together. They moved. Again, as a child, I used to walk at 6 years old. I was walking 1 mile a day to school and a mile back. I was surprised that I went back to my hometown in Manchester, and I heard that children now, if there's not a taxi on the road, they will not go to school, they go back home because they don't walk that 1 mile, right? And you think about this is what we're doing to our children. We drive them right to the school, not even to the gate of the school, we drive them right to the building. And in the evening, we go and we pick them up at the building anymore after that, right? So we're not moving as much. Screens, my grandmother had no screen. We didn't even have a TV. If you wanted to watch TV, you had to go down to the minister's house and sit outside and watch the TV for maybe an hour, right? It was only later that we had TV. And helping others, our neighbors, lives were about helping your neighbors, sharing food with them, sharing tasks with them. As children, they used to send us all over the place to go and help this old person, that old person, right? And these were people who were praying all the time. They didn't have a lot in life, but they had God. The point I'm making is that in general, these principles are not difficult to implement. They're not some, they don't require more money. In fact, a lot of these things will require less money than your current lifestyle, right? So you don't have to spend more. You don't have to go out of your way. All you have to do is do these simple things. I'm not saying that there are not other interventions that you can take to improve your health. But if you focus on these 7 and implement them rigorously in your life, you're doing these things, but you're not doing them enough, right? You're eating plants, just not enough. You're drinking water, just not enough. We eat with our families, not enough. We walk because we have to walk to move around, but we're not walking, we're not moving enough, right? So we do all of this, and I guarantee you that your physical and mental health will start to go on a better trajectory. And by God's grace, eventually we can move towards a healthier state of being. At that point, we will be able to go, as your theme says, because we have embraced this healthier lifestyle. So I hope these points really, as I said, I hope you weren't expecting something grand or earth-shattering, because the truth is, to be healthy, it doesn't require any earth-shattering interventions. You see, the cow doesn't go to school to learn how to be healthy. The goat does not go to school to learn how to eat well. The chicken does not have to go on the internet to learn how to eat properly. All they're doing is eating what nature provides. Moving around to go from one place to another so they can get food different places. We move around for other reasons, right? Well, they don't pray and help others. What I'm saying is that these are not earth-shattering things. These are simply interventions. But I guarantee you implement these things and you are well on your way to better health outcomes in your life. So I leave you with these, and I just trust that by God's grace, just by doing these simple things, we can begin to enjoy healthier, more fulfilling lives. And because of that, we would be better equipped to go, not just today, but if time lasts long enough, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, we'll be still in a good position to go out and spread the gospel, do work for God, and to make the lives of those around us better. So I thank you for listening, and I wish you God's richest blessings. And I'll close now with a brief word of prayer. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that you have provided all that we need to live healthy, fulfilling lives. Lord, help us day by day to make the right decisions in our food, in our drink, in our activities, in our attitude to others. Help us to make the right decisions that are going to make us healthy as individuals. And that, Lord, not only that, but that through those decisions, we will be a witness to others. They will see that, Lord, we care so much about this temple that you have given us that, like Daniel, we will not defile it with so much of the garbage that is around us these days. But more importantly, we will be so strengthened that we can go out and be a witness for you, not weighed down by all the diseases that our lifestyle can bring upon us, so that with healthy bodies we can go out and share your gospel more effectively. So we just thank you for this information and ask you continue to guide and bless us as we seek to embrace a healthy lifestyle from day to day. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. God bless you, everyone, and thank you so much again for joining me and being, and allowing me to be part of your Health Week activities. God bless, and hopefully I'll see you soon.